Cancer, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In this video, every single week, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun and what that means for your bottom line. All you need to know to enjoy this video is when your birth date is. That's all. Though I will be using the measurements and the degrees within the zodiac sign of Cancer to understand how your natal sun is going to be impacted. You don't need to know exactly where your natal sun is located, because I will be translating that for you with regards to the correlating birthdays, so that you'll know based on your birthday where you fit. I'm going to start out really broad with the big stuff, the stuff that is really going to have an impact on everybody, and then I will focus that down into Cancer specific information, and then I'll move on to the decans. And the decans, breaking things down into the decans, a decan is a group of 10 degrees. So every zodiac sign has 3 of them, and depending on where your natal sun is located, which decan it's located in, will help me understand what angle it's making to the other planets, which will tell me how your natal sun and how you are going to be impacted by the associated energies this week. Now, the most accurate way is to get your birth chart and know exactly what degree your sun sits on in Cancer, but you don't need that, like I said, because you can kind of predict that or estimate that with the birth dates. But a natal chart is really easy to get. It's free. It's easy. You just go online and search free natal chart or free birth chart. You need your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And with that information in seconds, you'll get your birth chart. So let's dive into the big stuff, Cancer. Roller coaster warning. I wrote that down for you guys. It's right there. It says roller coaster. Here's a roller coaster warning. The moon is going through a quadrant of the sky of the zodiac. It's moving between Pisces and Gemini this week. There's a lot of activity in that area between Pisces and Gemini. There's a lot of other planets there. So there's always a roller coaster for us, but this will be this will be an interesting week. Let's start off really big. So the big stuff. This is for the week of July 7th through the 13th of 2023. I always list that so you can be sure in the thumbnail and the title of the video. There's 2 major transits this week. 1, Mars is going into Virgo on the 10th, and 2, Mercury is headed into Leo on the 11th. Mars in Virgo acts in a very facetious, fastidious, pedantic kind of way. It can be very good because it keeps everything online and in schedule and in the right compartments. But at the same time, it also expects things to be predictable and go as planned, and that can also create a lot of tension. And the additional tension comes from the fact that during this time, Mars is going to be in opposition to Saturn, which makes it feel really restricted, refined, and constrained. And so Saturn over in Pisces is trying to give form to new things, right? Create boundaries out of the abyss. Whereas over here now, Mars is in Virgo saying, well, it has to be done this way. Where's the schedule? Where's the plan? And there's that conflict there of we don't know it because it's never been done before. So it's going to be extra hard work, and it can be a very draining time and frustrating, and even in some cases make people feel very angry because they feel so restricted just because they don't know how to proceed. So very interesting energy. Also, that Mars Saturn opposition is one of the main aspects that we need to talk about or be aware of this week. Mercury moving into Leo is actually quite brilliant. Mercury in Leo is confident and blunt, gets to the point. It doesn't take no sass, but it gives a lot of it. Yeah, it's really about talking about information, exposing information or presenting information more than it is about digging for information. But there is a digging for information going on here this week because we have Mars in opposition to Pluto. That's right. Around the 9th, Mars moves into an opposition with Pluto, which puts it square to the nodes, which forms a huge grand square in the sky. That's a lot of contention, and that's a lot of implosion and frustration just because of the grand square. It feels like there's too many challenges all at once. Mercury and Pluto in opposition always create this sense of what needs to be exposed, what's been hidden. I have to dig in, I have to find that information. This could be game changing. All the stuff that I don't want to talk about. But now that Mercury is moving into Leo, people want to talk about it. There has to be an expose about it, but it can be really tense and almost feel forced. So this is also another very frustrating, highly volatile energy this week going on both at the same time. This adds up to a contentious week, to say the least. We still have the Venus conjunction to Mars going on, but as Mars slips into Virgo, what you say and how reliable you are matters a lot more. So that comes from this hot, heavy, very romantic, sexual revolution kind of period in Leo to, okay, well, what are the expectations and how do we make sense of this? And some things just don't like to be made sense of. You also have Mars moving out of the square with Uranus, but Venus is still square with Uranus, which speaks of urges within us or desires within us that come up surprisingly, us not wanting to be locked into a schedule or just something predictable, but instead wanting our freedom and wanting our independence, especially when it comes to our desires and who we interact with intimately. So that could also be extremely tense and frustrating energy, especially for relationships. We have Saturn semi-square to Chiron, which it's been for a while, and it will be for a while, but since Saturn is now highly activated by Mars, this makes it even worse because Saturn semi-square to Chiron is feeling like you just never can get things right. Like those little needling things inside you, like I just didn't do it right. And that in and of itself can be frustrating to deal with. A semi-square isn't as intense as a square, but the intensity comes from when Mars moves into the opposition to Saturn. And now when you feel restricted and restrained and confined and not allowed to do anything, it comes back to feeling shitty about yourself. It's because I'm not good enough, or I'll never be good enough, or this will never happen for me. And those kind of thoughts can easily come up, especially since Chiron is also squared to the sun this week, which is another major aspect we have to talk about, which can compromise how you feel about who you are, a bruised ego, if you will. So there's a lot of that's coming up this week that we're all going to have to work out, including people who don't usually have to be that emotional. And there's pop-offishness there with Mars involved. People could get really angry and really frustrated this week. This is kind of like the big boom. I feel like there's an implosion here. It feels like something's got to give. This is like, we're not going to take it anymore kind of energy. Thank you, Twisted Sister. So yeah, that's where we're moving into. And by the 13th, the sun will form like a 7-degree opposition to Pluto. Give it a couple days and it will be in a tight opposition to Pluto. Mercury will start to move out next week, but on the 13th, the sun will start to feel Mars's opposition as well. That's some major crisis shit, is all I'm going to say. So this isn't an easy week. This is a very tense week. And so I've been suggesting to everybody that I'm talking to, self-care is really important. If you're feeling more exhausted, there's like an exhaustion storm in the air right now. Everybody is very exhausted. Try to be extremely compassionate to people and hope that they'll be compassionate back, but mostly be compassionate to yourself, because depression is a lot more likely, anxiety is a lot more likely. And if you already suffer from those things, then this week could be a real shitstorm for you. And even people who have never suffered from it before will all of a sudden get caught up in not feeling good about, not feeling physically good, but like not feeling right about themselves. This could just, when everything that you can't do and have never been able to do comes in your face and really batters down on your sense of self-esteem and value. I mean, yeah, just be kind to yourself. Definitely day of beauty. Definitely not even about the beauty though, just for the care, for the massages, for the hour or two to just sit back and relax. And maybe you got to let yourself take more naps this week. I would say let it happen, unless you start to see yourself being pulled more into that depression. And so a big way to, like, I'm nobody to expert on depression, but staying connected to faith and to others is what's really going to help this week. Letting them know that you believe in them, accepting it when they say they believe in you. Compassion and faith is so important in this kind of like energy to keep you connected and keep you connected, because that will keep the life flowing in you and it will help you not get detached. The depression and anxiety happens when we become detached. So that's just something we all have to be aware of this week, especially Cancerians, who tend to be very susceptible to emotions anyway. So let's double down into the big stuff that is concerning Cancerians specifically. For that, I look at two things. One, what's going on in the zodiac sign of Cancer, and then two, what's happening with the moon. So in the zodiac sign of Cancer, we have the sun. It's still Cancer season, moving between 15 and 21 degrees Cancer. Since Pluto is at 29 degrees Capricorn, that's when we start to see this, like, it's an 8-degree difference. This loose opposition start to form at the very, very end of this week. And then we have Mercury moving from Cancer into Leo. So it starts at 23 degrees Cancer. It'll move all the way to 29 degrees Cancer. By the 10th, by the 11th, it will be in Leo. But both of those, so the sun is more impacting the second decan of Cancer, and Mercury is definitely conjuncting the third decan of Cancer up through the 10th or 11th. Cuspers, you might feel it all the way through to the end of this week. Now, by cuspers, I mean those of you born on the Leo cusp. Of course, we have the other side of Cancer where there's Gemini cusps. Cusps are definitely still Cancerians, but they have their ear to the wall of the energy of the other sign, so it can still impact them. Let's talk about what's going on with the moon before we get deeper into those degree positions, okay? The moon is moving between Pisces and Gemini this week. These are mutable energies. Really interesting how those social energies will be around when there's the most likelihood of contention in the sky. Let me go first. So on July 6th, so that's the day before. That's actually my birthday. Woo woo. The moon was in opposition to Mars, which can be a very volatile energy, a very angry energy, and that could also be very exhausting as well. Well, it moves on the 8th. By the 8th, it will be conjunct to Neptune. Conjunction to Neptune, between the moon and Neptune is very dreamy. It's very tiring. So expect, if around the 8th you're feeling more exhausted and your mind is just slipping into dreams, let yourself sleep. Give yourself as much rest around that time as you can. I understand we all have different jobs, but don't be hard on yourself. Be extra compassionate to who you are and give yourself that dreamy period. Also have a notebook around if you want to be more active in your dreams, writing down, because for Cancerians especially, that can be a very psychic energy, revelation kind of day. And it's nice to jot those things down to make them more useful. On the 9th, the moon conjuncts Chiron. So the conjunction with Chiron is going to be contentious right now because of Chiron's semi-square to Saturn and square to the sun, square to Venus. All of these things make it really, really tense. And so that could be a day when we're really dealing with our sense of self-esteem, our sense of self-worth, our sense of how we look, not looking good enough, not feeling good enough, bruised egos, or even more temptations to step outside of our relationship to make ourselves feel better. Just an FYI. This is the 9th. On the 11th, the moon conjuncts Jupiter, which gives it an optimistic energy. So that could be a nice day where we can like pray and hope and manifest again. And then on the 12th, it conjuncts Uranus, which is a very oddball energy. Very, I want my independence. I need my freedom. I need my space. And I need to do things that I haven't tried before. That kind of energy could really be affecting us around the 12th. And then around the 13th, we're going to see that the moon becomes square to both Saturn and Mars. And this is going to be probably the hardest day of the week. Yeah, definitely. I feel, except for maybe that conjunction to Chiron, this is a hard day because it's square to Saturn, which makes us feel very lorded over. And like authority is just not working our way. Playing by the rules can be difficult, especially with that square to Mars, because we can get very angry and super volatile in that energy. And we'll feel that obstruction between the two of them. We'll feel resistant. We'll feel the no. We'll feel it. It's only for that day. We'll move on, but that could be a pretty contentious day. I wouldn't try to make much important happen around that time. Just an FYI. It won't really work for us. And if those of you who are cross watchers and don't really understand Cancerians and are always making fun of how moody we are, listen to the list that I just read to you, because that is what we go through every single week. Because the moon moves so quickly and we get impacted by all these different energies all the frickin' time. So we become so well adapted at dealing with emotions, or even just accepting our mood swings, like literally riding on the ocean waves all the time. It is certainly difficult, and not really to be made fun of, but just a sense. That's me being sensitive. We're going to be really sensitive this week. I can tell you that right now. Cancer, let's go into the decans. So a decan is a group of 10 degrees, and all zodiac signs are on a 360-degree zodiac wheel kind of in the sky, and they all occupy 30 degrees on that wheel. So when we break things up into groups of 10, then there are 3 decans in every zodiac sign. And we break things up into groups of 10 so that we can get more accurate measurements of seeing what aspect is forming to your natal sun. An aspect is an angle that creates a relationship between 2 different points in the sky, 2 different luminaries, 2 different planets, a planet and a luminary, whatever they are. So in this situation, we're taking your natal sun as the point, as one point to everything, and then we're seeing how it's aspecting to all these other planets around it. The decan is that 10-degree toggle point where in astrology an aspect is either made or it's not made, right? The energy is either there impacting you or it's not impacting you. So that helps us know how your natal sun is being impacted. And all Cancerians are not getting impacted the same way because your natal suns aren't forming the same angles to the same planets. So let's talk about it. If your natal sun is located between 0 and 9 degrees Cancer, you are a Cancer 1 because your natal sun is located in the first decan or group of 10 degrees of Cancer. This usually correlates to June Cancerians. So anywhere between, say, the 22nd and the 31st or the 30th or maybe 1st of July. This would be you guys, that span. Definitely Gemini cuspers. The Gemini cusp would be June 21st, 22nd, 23rd. June sometimes if Cancer season doesn't start till the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, but about those first 3 days afterward. For you guys, your natal suns are sextile to Saturn. That is a long-term aspect. It'll be true all this year. That means harmony with rules, laws, regulations, and authority figures. So that kind of stuff could actually kind of ease you out. And with all this kind of contentious energy surrounding Saturn this week, it could be easiest for you guys to handle or deal with or not even impact you at all. You also have a long-term semi-square to Uranus, which is going to be especially exacerbated on the 12th when the current moon conjuncts Uranus, conjuncts your natal suns as well. There is that, not conjunction natal suns as well, but it conjuncts Uranus. That makes it even more moody. It kind of amplifies the energy of, I want to be free. I don't want to be confined. I don't want to be restricted. And this could impact your romantic relationships in a way. So just be aware of that. And then we have this, that's July 12th. And then we have this quincunx to Pluto that is long-term. Quincunx is our frustrated energy, just almost feeling like you have to change, like the change is happening. You have to get ready. You have to prepare, almost like a squirrel in the fall collecting his nuts. So do it. Follow it. It's true. The change is coming. So trust it and prepare for it. That's for a couple of years that's going to be happening to you guys, just an FYI. But especially around the 12th and the 13th, watch those days, because that's when the moon's directly interacting with Uranus and Saturn respectively, and that could be especially challenging days, definitely on the 12th. But the 13th, it might be a little bit easier for you guys since your natal suns are trine to Saturn. You may have a more optimistic understanding of it, or be able to solve any issues that arise more easily. Just an FYI. Let's move on to Cancer 2s. So Cancer 2s, your natal suns, if you know your natal suns, are located between 10 and 19 degrees Cancer. You are Cancer 2s. I'm a Cancer 2. My natal sun is located at 14 degrees Cancer. My birthday is July 6th, just to kind of show you how it correlates. But Cancer doesn't always start on the same day every year. So that's not a constant. But it's a good estimate. I do know that my birthday is July 6th, and that my natal sun is located at 14 degrees Cancer. So if you know your natal sun is located between 10 and 19 degrees Cancer, you are Cancer 2s. This usually correlates to the first 10 days of Cancer season of July. So July 1st through the 10th, or 2nd through the 11th. About there, that's the time span for you guys. Your natal sun is conjunct the current sun. This could actually help you, but it could also make you feel more exposed, right? Feel more like, why is the attention on me? It could create pressure, but it does usually, and it could even create a little bit of arrogance and ego that wants to fight, which could give you courage, and that's good. We need it this week. But arrogance in the face of anxiety and depression can only make situations worse. So self-care is really important this week for you guys. You have a long-term conjunction square to Chiron. I mean, we're in the thick of it. It's been like this for a couple years. It will be like this through next year. This is about constantly questioning your sense of self anyway. Right now, the current sun is also going to be square to Chiron. So this week is going to feel really, really heavy when it comes to our self-esteem and our bruised egos. And things will easily bruise our egos now that the current sun is riding our suns, conjuncting our suns, and also square to Chiron. This is going to be a tough week. Expect anxiety and depression to be more likely because your ego gets bruised a lot more, and you could pop off and be much more volatile, especially around the 13th. When there's a square, when the moon is square to Saturn, and you feel just completely constricted and restricted and restrained and denied. You could feel denied like crazy. So especially self-care this week. Let yourself rest and try not to be too hard on yourself. Start with compassion inside first, and then also compassion outside. FYI. You're going to be semi-square to Mars, so there's going to be that pop-off-ish angry energy all week. And there's a sextile to Jupiter, which could usually be really good, but at the same time, with all this other contentious energy, could really create frustration because there's an expectation that good things will happen, and they will happen. You could actually start really wonderful things with a sextile to Jupiter, but Jupiter was sextile to our natal suns for the next couple of weeks. So honestly, there's lots of potential here. Stay optimistic and keep moving forward, because that little bit of optimism, what we start right now, even though it may be restricted and people may say no in this next week or so, it will actually end up happening and coming true. So keeping that faith and keeping that optimism is extremely important this week. And with that sextile to Jupiter, doors will open. They just might be a little bit more stubborn than usual. Cancer 3s. If you know your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Cancer, you're Cancer 3s. And that correlates to, say, birthdays between the 11th through the 21st of Cancer, or say the 12th through the 22nd, if that's what Cancer season was that year. So it's in and around those dates. So if you are born around the 10th or 12th, your natal suns are square to Chiron. Really, it's people who are born between the 9th and the 12th that are really feeling that square to Chiron, that bruised ego. So for you guys, especially this week, self-care and compassion to who you are is going to be very, very important, because it's going to be exacerbated by where the current sun is. I think it'll be a little worse for Cancer 2s, since the current sun is also conjunct to their natal suns. But just watch it, Cancer 3s. Be FYI, especially if your birthday's around the 11th, 12th. Another long-term transit or aspect is a sextile to Uranus, trine to Neptune, and quincunx to Saturn. That quincunx to Saturn is going to be really triggered around the 13th, and maybe all week long, because of all this restriction and constraints, butting heads with authorities or laws. It could be exacerbated this week for you, which is extra frustrating. Your natal suns, especially if you're born toward the Leo cusp, is in opposition to Pluto, and that's gonna boom. As of the 12th, no, as of the 11th, cusps all week long, Leo cusps all week long. Your natal suns are going to be conjunct to Mercury. You're going to be right in the thick of that Mercury opposition to Pluto. The opposition to Pluto has been going on to your natal suns for a while, but when another planet slips in there and brings new energy into the mix, it really kind of compounds the situation for you. So this week it'll be about a lot of conversations or information coming up and digging up different aspects of you, your character, your person, your ego, and even maybe stuff that you've done that needs to switch or needs to change. This is going to be a challenge. I don't know what else to say. As of the 12th, you'll start to feel the sun conjunct your natal suns. If you're born, especially around the 11th or 12th of like the beginning of Cancer 3s. So those of you will be the lucky people who will feel opposition to the sun and opposition to Mercury at the same time. Or yeah, so that could be the 12th, 13th of this week could be especially difficult for those of you born around the 11th or 12th of July. The long-term trine to Neptune just means at this point we're going to escape into fantasy a lot, and you might want to sleep a lot more. It could just help you. It really could, and I would trust it and use it as a method of healing, since it is a trine. It could be a method of healing for you guys this week. So trust your dreams, trust your creative energies, and definitely trust if you need to sleep a little bit more. If you're tired, don't be hard on yourself. That's really important. Yeah, when Mercury moves in and trines Neptune as well, this week that will happen. Music is going to be so important for you guys to heal your souls and to bring yourselves back to a healthy place, to feel your feelings. This is going to be really important. It's going to be a medicine for you. So keep your music and your playlist nearby. Your playlist, however, may change because of this sextile to Uranus. You may be suddenly different things are working for you. So spin that dial, guys. It's going to be really important this week. I love you so much. I hope you do have a wonderful week. We're all going to make it through this. And please feel free to share below. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so that astrology motivation grows. And then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card reading. I'll see you guys there. I love you.